Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host on a live podcast from Southern California, from Surf City, USA. I'm down here at the beach. I'm in my studio at home, and what I'm doing is a live podcast about the child protection system. That's the branch of social service that deals with the protection of our children from neglect and abuse, and also offer family services such as food, clothing, housing, medical, and school. Those kinds of things. If you're really dependent and need that, they're also, when they break the family apart, supposed to put the family back together. They're supposed to put the family back together. So I'm very happy to see you join me because this is an interactive podcast. What I mean by that is that there's four things you can do. One, by just being in the room is one. You listen, take notes. But let's say you want to ask questions or make comments. I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. On YouTube, you can make comments. I also recommend that you click the emojis, the thumbs up, the hearts, the smiley faces. Also, please subscribe down below. Please subscribe down below. Now, when you're typing comments, it's very important you deal with the CPS. It can be a question or a comment, and all I ask you is to show your name. Now, a lot of you have interesting names that aren't your real names. I'd like to see your first real name in the comment section. Also, the city and state, or a country. I've had a lot of countries call in about CPS, not call in, but text in. I just had a boy this morning from Assam, ASSAM, India. That is a state province in Northeast Asia, India, Northeast. I've also had someone from New Delhi, India. I've had several countries in Africa, Mozambique, Rwanda, and Liberia, and of course, South Africa. Then up in Europe, I've got England, Scotland, Wales, and Sweden and Denmark. Then across the pond, I've got Canada. The other night was British Columbia, Canada. I've had both sides of Canada. In the United States, I've had all the 50 states, including Washington, D.C. They either called in or texted in. And in the United States, I've had 3 social workers that have talked for a good, 40 minutes about what they do and how they protect the children and how they do family reunification. It was really quite interesting. So I encourage anybody, if you're a police officer or if you're a social worker, please call in and explain to me how you do child protection services and so forth. Now, also, we go further south to Mexico, and I've had a father looking for his daughters in Louisiana. Then we go to South America. I had Guyana, which is east of Venezuela, north of Brazil, on the east coast of Brazil. They have a coastal town called Georgetown. Then across the Pacific to the land down under, I've had several text messages from Australia. So those are the international people. All people about CPS are welcome. All people about CPS are welcome. Anything to do with CPS, I want to help you. I've been there before. Before. The third way to interact with the podcast is to be a guest on the show. I have a producer that works behind the scenes. Her name is Grace, and she's my show producer. And I really want to thank her for working hard behind the scenes and helping me out with my podcast. She also will help you get on. I can take up to 9 people on my podcast, total of 10 can be in that picture window. And all you have to do is email her at grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. It's on the screen, so it's right there. Now, it's very, very important that you pick the right show. So just say, I want to be Bob's Monday morning show or his Wednesday evening show. I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. That's 14 shows you get to pick from. They're typically on at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for an hour, then 7 o'clock at night for Pacific Standard Time for an hour. There are exceptions. Now, right now, I'm on every Sunday. I start at 8, 2 hours earlier because of church and with the family. A week from this Friday, I'll be on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I have a family outing with my family. It's that time of year where it's Friday Night Lights football season. So I wanted to enjoy my son there and stuff. Um, um, so that's all you have to do. And then she will contact you, give the link for StreamYard. That's the application I use and I broadcast over YouTube. You found me on Facebook, Fighting CPS. So that's the third way you can interact with this podcast. The last way is, of course, my phone number. And now it's going to make me live with my, you can do a call in. And it looks like we got someone, KK. Welcome, KK. Glad to see you again. KK is from New York, and she's been fighting a hard case for a long time. She finds that CPS in New York is very corrupt, very, very, very corrupt. Natalie, I text her, but I haven't heard from her. I hope that she will. And also text Faye, who's from Richmond, Kentucky. Natalie is from Hollywood, California. Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. The topic is always open, Kay. I've already introduced myself, and I've already told how they interact with the podcast. What's left is to talk about my case and how it may help you, and about my 5 rules and all the other topics. And so it's very pleasing to have KK here from New York. And she asked what the topic is. It's open for discussion. And Faye just came in from Richmond, Kentucky, and she said, "Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a blessed night." Well, thank you, Faye. I know that you and your mosquitoes are having a hard time there in Kentucky. She has a bad case of mosquitoes, and they seem to eat her alive. And anyway, she's a single mom. She lost her daughter at 5 years of age, and she has her son, who's 23, that she's trying to take care of. He's a special needs child, and she's trying to get guardianship. He's 23 years old, so she's trying to formally get guardianship. And KK says, "Hi, Mrs. Faye. How you doing?" Yeah, that is certainly right. That is Faye Manley, and she is a very strong woman, a very giving woman, a very loving woman, as well as KK. KK went back and got her law degree so she can fight to get her kids back. KK has had a horrible experience in New York. A lot of deceptions. CPS is not transparent. I don't know if you remember the story of Alice in Wonderland, but that's how you're treated in CPS. You remember Alice? She fell in the rabbit hole, and then she went to a series of rooms that went nowhere. She talked to the Cheshire cat, who confused her further. That's how child protection system is. It's very confusing. You're like Alice in Wonderland. They're not there to protect your rights. They don't care about your constitutional rights. They will violate your civil and constitutional rights. It is really, 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 really hard there. Oh, and then Faye says, "Good, KK. Prayers and hugs to you, my friend." And then KK says back, custodial interference is starting to surface a lot since COVID. Wow. Custodial interference. Can you elaborate more on that, KK? Can you elaborate more on that? So here you are, you're like Alice in Wonderland, going from room to room, off with your head. It's terrible. It's so difficult to navigate there. These social workers are animals. If you don't believe me, go look up 2022, the Pink Ladies of Prescott, Arizona. There were 8 social workers with 25 years of experience, and they thought it'd be funny if they wore a pink t-shirt with stenciled on the front, professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they said, do you know where your children are at? So when you walk by the parents, they paraded at Costco, at Walmart, at Target, at Best Buys, all the big stores. And it just made the parents so mad. So in Prescott, Arizona, the parents called and the social workers were fired, as well as the director of social services. I left with only one person there that handled all the claims. So if you really want to know a social worker, just think of the Pink Ladies. They're terrible. They are really terrible. Lots of prayers, KK. I like that. Lots of prayers. Now, KK has written something pretty elaborate here, and I'll try to read it. You guys can all see it's up on the screen. It's basically when the court order is being restricted with gray areas and not honoring for what it says. It's entirely they take visits or cancel visits without notice or without reason. They use the prudent parent standard to make it seem like you don't want your child to have a life of normalcy, or if you have a history or any type of substance abuse, mental health, or medical issue that may interfere with the level of the parenting, the level of the supervision, or the level of things needed for doing or needed for doing. Faye says they have to make up any visits they canceled. Faye's right. I know that if you have a visit that's canceled, you got to make it up. You got to reschedule it. They're notorious for doing that. And KK says daily living. Hmm. I'm back. Sorry. I was thinking I didn't see my producer, and I was wondering if I was in the wrong room. Sometimes that happens that way. KK says, Mr. Pace, you know that Miss Fay, you know that has but knowing and doing, never honored in the same context when CPS is involved. I know. Let me see. Let me read that further. I know that, Mr. Pace. You know that. Miss Fay, you know that. But knowing and doing never honored in the same context when CPS involved. Yes, they'll lie and cheat. They won't make it up. I know that they're supposed to do that. It's, you know, KK said something about daily living. And then she said this big statement here. And then Faye says, the DCF has to make it up, not KK. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Faye. That is the CPS system, DCF. In some states, it's DCF. Like in Prescott, Arizona, it's Department of Children Services. So it's DCS. And this is called the Department of Children and Families. Okay. Now, KK further says that was the rest of the last message when I said lack of supervision, lack of guardianship, lack of things needed to everyday living. I agree, KK. And again, thank you for sharing that. Faye further says, she says KK only has to make it up if she cancels or misses a visit. Hey, we got the girl from West Hollywood. Long time no see. Natalia. Welcome, Natalia. I'm glad you're here. She must have fixed her phone or computer. Welcome, Natalia. This is DCFs. Get away with all this. It's the Child Protection System. You're right. Department of Children and Family Services. You're right. That's the same thing. Yes, but we have to make them do it. I did. Only got 1 hour every 2 weeks with my kids. So I was determined to not let them cheat me out of that. It's a good, strong woman there, Faye. Good, strong woman. No question about that. KK says, and you're absolutely right, Miss Faye, but because I have leniency based on the American Disability Act, nothing with the parenting plan is being honored. Anytime I enforce my rights and try to apply the goal of return to parent for reunification. I agree. I agree, KK. That is really tough. Now, Natalie says, internet gets crazy, charge a lot, get a new phone, hope it works. Well, you're doing great, Natalie. We've missed you for a couple weeks, so we're glad you're back. Natalie's from West Hollywood, KK from New York, and Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. Now, KK says further, well, I was supposed to get 3 days a week for a total of 14 to 16 hours weekly. And all of a sudden, when the fourth parent was negligent and failed to supervise a visit where my child got disrespected and erratic, nobody got clarity and confirmation for me. I was stripped of my parenting time down to 2 hours a week, if that. Oh, that's terrible, KK. That's terrible. Now, Faye says the ADA there is to make it easier, not harder. I guess I'm not understanding. I agree. The ADA right now is referring to the American Disability Act. And there's a lot of parents that have disabilities, and social workers doesn't help out those people. They ignore them. So that's what these child protection social workers do. They're bad. They're so bad. In fact, I'll talk about another social worker. I already talked about the pink ladies. Well, now I'll talk about the social worker that took an interview of a small child, a young child who was still in middle school. What happened is Christine Salazar, who's a mother, has 2 children, a 13-year-old son, a 13-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. Apparently, the Child Protection Agency was investigating her son for molesting her daughter. So they had an investigator come out. He was a male. And they didn't know what he was doing, but he went to interview the female, the 13-year-old. He asked the school, can I be alone with this child? Well, there is a big red flag. The guy's 60 years old, and he's not supposed to be doing that. But he got alone with this girl, told her to take off his clothes, and took pictures. Now, I don't know all the details that the daughter said, but the mother heard about this when the daughter came home. She called CPS. They immediately fired this 60-year-old man. It's perverted. If he is 60 years old, he knows better. He knows he should not be alone. He should be with somebody else, like a nurse or somebody else out there. But he wasn't. So, this social worker, the mother called and complained, and they fired him. They agreed he should not have gone there and taken pictures. The school should not let a young child be alone with a man. I think it's gross. I think it's stupid. And I think it's a form of perversion. There's no reason. He knows better. He knows better. It's stupidity. As adults, especially adult leader in organizations that involve youth, it's always two adults thick when you're around children. Same thing in Boy Scouts, AYSO soccer. It's always two adults together with children. Faye says, I wish I lived near KK so me and her could team up on her case. I wish you did too. I wish I had a plane that could round all of you up and we could go to everybody's place together as a team and defeat them. Now, KK says, this is my third case planner, and the case planner prior to literally withheld extremely important information regarding my mental health and did not convey that to her higher ups for her to be advocating on behalf of me getting more visits. That is a shame, KK. Now, Natalie from West Hollywood says, I had a sixth grader teacher was weird, like the social worker crazy. By the way, that social worker was fired, but you know what happened? He had a friend that worked in the CPS system, and that friend retaliated. That friend was an old schoolmate of that guy in middle school or high school, whatever. And he got it so that instead of this, so that the mother was accused of molesting the 15-year-old. So now you got the 15-year-old accused of the 13-year-old daughter, and the mother accused of molesting the 15-year-old son, who's molesting the 13-year-old son. The whole thing is awful anyway. It's stupid. It's stupidity. How corrupt CPS, how they lie, how they cheat, how they do anything. I'm really ashamed of the CPS system. Natalie says he made a field trip to the wilderness to get away with kids. Again, that should be two people. It shouldn't be a single person. Two adults with those kids. That was terrible, Natalie. KK says her ex-husband was released from Maine for routine traffic stop, but now New York is trying to apprehend him, and this is outrageous. Oh, I'm so sorry about that, Kay. I didn't know a typical stop from Maine. That is terrible. Yeah, KK's in North Hollywood. She says, come to her. And KK Richardson says, I reacted to out of the foster care agency to try to ask about my children schooling for this year based on my educational rights still being intact and not terminated. And I was dismissed and disregarded, disrespected, and disappointed, disappointed. I'm so sorry, Kay. That is terrible. If you have your education rights, you have a right to know what your child is in school and doing there. KK further says, I want to know why a fourth parent can be holding contempt if she is an extension of the agency. That's a good question. I need some more clarification. KK says, I want to know why a fourth parent cannot be held contempt if she is an extension of the agency. I don't see why she couldn't. Natalie says, yes, bad. I never want to do a field trip in the wilderness. Oh, she never went to a field trip in the wilderness. KK says, Mr. Bob, my ex-husband was on parole for murder that happened in Pennsylvania and was evading the law for over a year with a full order of protection. Wow. That is pretty serious, KK. Natalie says Florida agencies are bad and they push adopting. That's good to know, Natalie. Florida pushes adoption. KK says, sorry, meant to say the foster parent. So the foster parent was on parole, not your husband. I think that's what you're saying. Foster parent. She meant to say foster parent. Okay, I must have missed a comment. Faye says no. No, Bob. No, Bob. Oh, not the fourth parent, the foster parent. The foster parent. Okay, I understand now. I understand. KK says, well, so does New York. New York pushes adoption also because based on the FAFS 8 timeline, they're also changing my goal to adoption. Oh, that is so terrible, KK. It really is. Natalie says, I think the ex-husband was murdered suspect. Where did you get that from, Natalie? You think the ex-husband was a murder suspect? What ex-husband? And Natalie says K with a question mark. Sorry, meant to say, why isn't the foster parent held responsible when violating court orders, parenting time, and overall laws for forced parents that are not kinship? I agree, Kay. That's a horrible thing there. Faye says Kentucky's adopting out more kids than returning. So what Faye says that they are adopting more kids than returning, that's pretty sad because statistics have shown that 400,000 children are being investigated every year by the CPS system, the Child Protection System. And of that 400, It seems like 90% of them are in custody or trafficked into CPS. Natalie says the last time the K mentioned it. Okay, all right. All right, Natalie. Now, KK says, yes, my ex husband was paroled from Pennsylvania to New York when I did request based on my medical diagnostic getting worse, and I wanted my children to not have to leave their home. Natalie says, I believe you, Faye, how California's just adopted more kids this November. Yes, California and Kentucky have adopted more kids than kids being returned. Thank you, Natalie. Faye says in Kentucky, because foster parents are employed by the Department of Children and Families, so they do what Department of Children and Families tell them to do, which is do everything they can to alienate your kids from you in preparation for adoption. You know, alienation is illegal. You're not supposed to do alienation. That's very common in divorce issues. When parents are divorced, they try to pit the kids against one another and they'll try to alienate the child. But CPS does alienation, which is wrong. They traffic our kids and everything else. Natalie says, thank you. Well, thank you, Natalie. I want to thank KK, Natalie, and Faye for the good exchange of that we're talking about. Now, I do need to mention there's another number on my screen. No, not my number to call me. That's my office number, but the other number in yellow and orange. That number is 888-888-6582. That's the number of attorney Mr. Davis. He is a dependency juvenile family law attorney. He has over 35 years of fighting CPS and getting your kids back. He has won civil suits against CPS with millions of dollars. He knows how to fight them. He's not afraid to fight them. I feel he's the number one guy in the United States. And so he is offering, I've asked him to offer a consultation to all my people in my room for 30 minutes for $60. That's $60 for 30 minutes. The number one dependency attorney in the United States. He'll talk to you about how to navigate, how to get your kids back, what to do. And if you want to hire him, he'll talk about his retainer. He will practice laws, all 50 states, including Northern California. All you do is call 888-888-6582. Make sure when you call that number, you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. Also, when you talk to Mr. Davis, say that Bob Pace sent you. It's very important he hears that. But you need a real attorney. Some of you say, well, my court-appointed attorney is okay. Well, the court-appointed attorney has a caseload of 30 more clients. They won't fight. They're going to look for the easiest way out. They're not educated in dependency law, and they're not paid very much. So they're lazy, and they're paid by the CPS and run by the judge. And that's why they like families who take court-appointed attorneys for the children and themselves. Because you should have an attorney, and it may take 3 of them. You know, one for the husband, one for the wife, and one for the child. That's $1,500 an hour. That's a lot of money. But they hope you don't. And they certainly don't want you to do pro bono because, not excuse me, pro bono per se, because you have to fight them without an attorney and you can go before the judge. So they're hoping that you keep that court-appointed attorney so you stay out of the courtroom. You're not in the courtroom. I was always out of the courtroom. My court-appointed attorney went in there. I guess in Orange County, the dependency court have it different than other places. Now, Natalie says, "You're alienating me. My kids have no idea how many times I try to help them out." Yes, they were alienating your kids from you because that's what the child protection system does. KK from New York says, "They have basically turned my children against me because they've had their own room and they get to do what they want." That is it. They're spoiled. Nothing is harmful to parents that spoil their kids. And foster care will do that to try to turn them against you, KK. To try to turn them against you. Now, Natalie says, "Sad how judges take advantage of hiding documents." Yes, judges are corrupt. In fact, this election year, you should go out and vote for judges. We need a judge with a dependency law background, a juvenile background, a family law background. That's the kind of judge. My judge was terrible. All he knew about was collision claims and auto accidents and so forth. He knew nothing about neglect or abuse. He knew nothing about family reunification. Family reunification doesn't exist with social service, and they're required by law to do it. They're required because why? The best parents are the biological parents to raise the children. The biological parents. So I agree with you, Natalie. I agree. Natalie further says, "I agree, Kay, that the Department of Children and Family Services do brainwashing the kids." Oh, yes, they do, Natalie. You're so true about that. Natalie from West Hollywood, California says her judge was appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. I don't know how that would happen, Natalie, because all the dependency judges in LA County and Orange County are elected judges. I don't know if that was a temporary appointment or that was absent or whatever, but that is terrible. I don't think the governor, I think we as the voters should have pick a judge based on their expertise. Hello, Akima Richardson, and welcome. Akima Richardson, I believe you're from New York, are you not? I think we have another person from New York. Akima Richardson says, "The lawyer for my children stated every visit that my children have with me has been explosive and requires therapeutic intervention afterwards. Unbelievable, nobody spoke up on my behalf." I am so sorry to hear about that, Akima. I think you're from New York. Did I get the right place? Or are you from somewhere else? I forgot now. Akima finally says, "I didn't get a chance to speak or answer the questions with detail." Natalie says, "Yes, Governor Brown appointed him because the old judge died. He was 77. Okay, well, maybe the governor's a point judge because it's between elections. I stand corrected there, Natalie. So that was appointed judge. You probably appointed a terrible judge. Akima Richardson says, "This is KK. This is my other phone. My phone. Oh, I thought KK was the same as Akima. Oh boy, I get confused. You guys buffalo me all the time. Anyway, we have KK Richardson and Akima Richardson are the same person. Her phone died. So it's the same person, KK speaking. Now, Natalie says that is why you need to get professional monitors for visiting. Yes, but they cost money, Natalie. They cost money. A professional monitor may cost you $150 an hour. And those are added expenses that people do not have. The sad part is the social services child protection system preys on low income families. They do that all the time. Natalie says the judge, she was hiding my ICPC, and my son was separated. For all you that don't know what ICPC is, it's an organization for transferring children between states. I'll get the correct name. The ICPC stands for the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. It's agreement between states so that children are kept safe. The purpose of the ICPC is a contract among member states and U.S. territories, authorizes them to work together to make sure that children who are placed across state lines for foster care or adoption are receiving adequate protection and support services. So that's what the ICPC is. I only want to take time because a lot of people in the room may not know that. Thank you, KK. The Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. KK further says, I don't understand why anything in the best interest of the child is always dismissed and disregarded, but anything that allows the social worker to be dismissive. Interstate Compact, I've already said that. Okay. On May 6th, KK says, my visits and communication will terminate with my children best on lies and malice. Is that May 6th, a year from now? Is that next year of 2025, KK? Natalie says, my attorney still asks what happened to the ICPC up until the last time. I talked to him and he passed away. Well, that's not bad. I mean, he passed, I guess he died, Natalie. That is so, oh boy. You ladies have the worstest luck. KK says, because the relationship with my children was already strained and I request an emergency ICPC. And Natalie says, yes, he died. Well, I'm sorry for the guy that died, but hopefully, Natalie, that the other attorney can still help you out with the ICPC. Okay, Akima Richardson says on May 6, 2024, 2 days before an order to show cause was even heard in family court, which is illegal, unlawful, and unjust. Yes, it is, KK. Yes, it is. I agree with you there. Natalie wants to say Mike Randall is a good attorney. All right. Well, thank you for letting us know. Mike Randall. Is he out of West Hollywood, Los Angeles? Where is he located? Oh, he passed away. Okay. All right. Yeah, you told me he passed away. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. The good attorney passed away. That was your attorney. You need to find another one, Natalie. You need to find another one. Faye, are you still around? I haven't heard from you a little bit. I still got KK and Natalie, but I have about 15 minutes left. And my phone number is up there. Call in 626 698 0990. It's internet-based phone system that my Vincent W. Davis and Associates use, and it's done with the Vonage streamlined application. It's an internet-based phone. So call in 626-698-0990. We've already had someone that called in, so the phone is open for anybody that wants to call in. Yeah, KK says they've basically turned her children against me because they have their own room and they get to do what they want. Yeah, I remember you telling me that earlier. I'm trying to catch up here. Good, Kay. Faye, I didn't hear from you in a bit, and I was just wondering if another subject there. So, I've talked to you about types of social workers. I've already talked to you about rule number 1: get an attorney. Getting an attorney is like open heart surgery. You can't have a layperson defend you. And you need a special attorney that knows how to navigate and go through it and fight CPS. Okay, we got a call coming in. Good evening. Who am I talking to?
Hi, good evening. My name is Tia, and I've been watching the show for a while. I just went through the whole CPS thing.
Okay, well, welcome, Tia. Welcome very much. Can you tell me where in the world are you located?
I'm in California, up out of a county called Modoc, most corrupt county I've ever encountered.
Well, it's so interesting because I've yet to hear about a great county, a great CPS. I've had 3 CPS social workers on my show, but that's all I've had. And I've talked to over 500 people, but every county, every city, every state, 99%, they're bad. They take your children that are not in imminent danger. They automatically search your home when they don't have a right to do so.
They take them with no complaints, no call.
Yes.
They didn't have a complaint against me. They never accused me of anything. They just took them. I wasn't allowed to be told what I did wrong, what to fix. They just took my kids and they put them through hell. And yeah, it was horrible. My oldest turned 18 in the system, and they brainwashed them. You know, my kids think that now that because so many people said that something must have happened, but they don't remember it. But nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it's sad.
And I was never even told what happened.
Well, what happened up in?
To even talk to me.
What happened in your case? What was your family structure when it got started?
It was me and my daughters. I had just bought our dream home, and was fixing it up. Everything was fine, and I started getting harassed by the local sheriffs because I was helping a gentleman they didn't like. But he didn't have family around, and he was old. He was in his 70s. He'd broken his neck, and I was going over and making him coffee and bringing him food. And apparently they didn't like this gentleman and told me to stay away. And I didn't because you help people when you're supposed to help them. Then they got to the point where they would pull me over every time I leave my yard. For nothing, just pull me over, and I couldn't even go to my kids' parent-teachers meetings or go to the grocery store or anything without being pulled over. And then one day they showed up in my yard. They arrested me on a warrant I didn't know I had. It ended up getting dropped because I shouldn't have had it. They took my kids out of youth group. They went and picked them up out of youth group, And they held me for the 3 days that it took for them to get the paperwork done, released me, dropped the warrant charge, which was just because they said I had obstructed when I asked them not to search my van. When my friend that was driving didn't have a driver's license, I guess. But anyways, that was the whole warrant, apparently. But anyways, like I said, that was all brought. When they took my kids, there was no accusations against me. Nobody ever said, accused me of even yelling at my children. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Not even in the paperwork. It just says mother was arrested on a bench warrant. They tried to say my kids didn't have a place to go, but my cousin was going to come pick them up right then and there. My best friend of 30-something years that I actually have papers signed. When my husband died, I signed over papers so that if anything happened to me, my kids wouldn't end up in the system. They would go to her and then figure out where they went. They said that they weren't allowed to go to her. They couldn't go to their grandpa. They weren't allowed to go to anybody. They just kept them. And then the whole court system was a joke. I wasn't allowed to. I was never told what I did wrong, what it was I could fix. Never given any program. They said because I didn't have a safety plan, they were keeping my kids, which I didn't even know what a safety plan was until almost a year later. It was something they were supposed to present to me, but they never did. And they put my kids through hell. They placed them. My youngest, they bounced her all over the place, and she ended up being attacked by a large dog. They tried to kill her, and she ended up in a mental hospital, and just. They terminated my rights, and every time I go to court, they wouldn't let me. I wasn't allowed to really say anything. I told the judge, just tell me what I need to fix. I will do anything.
Yeah.
I will move mountains with my bare hands.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
CPS. I talked to CPS. They tell me to talk to my attorney. My attorney refused to speak with me.
Well, you had a court appointed. You had a court appointed attorney, right?
I did, and I couldn't afford anything else. I was living on windows.
I know that's the advantage. You see, CPS is $1 trillion business. They're in the purpose of making money. They get $20,000 per child per month, and it adds up quick. If you have 100 family with 3 children, that's over $6 million in 1 month. And so,
if they terminate your rights, they get even more.
I know they don't respect your civil rights or your constitutional rights. They eliminate, they take them. They don't care. They don't like parents. They don't like seniors. They don't like elderly people. They don't want to return your kids.
We need to do something. There's more of us than there are of them. And as parents, we need to do something about this. The thing is that they isolate us. That's how they get away with it.
Yeah.
They pick poor people that don't have people to stand up for them. But if all the parents, if all of us get together and we show up at the door, at the White House, or at the Department of Justice, and we show up in mass, demanding that something be done, they'd have to listen. They couldn't throw us in. The only way they get away with it is that they isolate us, and then we're all alone, and we have no recourse, no help, and they keep it that way.
Yeah.
But there are more of us.
Were you a single mother when you were investigated by CPS?
Yes. Yeah.
My
husband died.
Oh, your husband died. Oh, that's, first of all, you're going through a tragedy. They should be there to help you. I mean, if you need food or clothing or those kinds of things, they should be helping you.
I had all that. I had all of that. I had food. I had clothes. I had, my bills were paid. I had all that. The house was a fixer-upper, but I was, fixing it, and I had soda inspector coming out because when I first got the place, it wasn't even hooked up or anything. It was raw land with a double wide 3-bedroom on it, but nothing was hooked. So I had to get the code inspector to come out, and I got the electrical approved, and I got everything hooked up, and everything was going. I mean, no, we didn't live in a fancy mansion, but my kids were well clothed, and my kids could cook a gourmet meal from a young age, and the fact that my kids were well dressed, that they chose to jog to the bus stop instead of get a ride because they liked their morning exercise. I was always talking about being independent and healthy, and my kids could cook, not ramen noodles, but my kids could cook. They held that against me. Like my kids that were forced to learn how to take care of themselves. Kids that have been forced to take care of themselves, burn macaroni and maybe make some oatmeal, but my kids could outcook any one of those social workers. My kids could have a political conversation and walk around. Most people, I homeschooled most of their life. They wanted to do public school and for the social aspect, so I let them as long as they continued, their further studies. But my kids were very smart and, very well educated, very nice clothes, there was, and they even commented, on how mature they were and how intelligent. But it was all held against me. Like somehow
Where
it was
did
that way because they had to be.
how many kids are we talking about that they took from you?
Two.
Were they boys or
my
girls?
Both girls.
And how old were they?
They were 9 and no, they were a little older than that. They were 12 and 15.
And what were the charges? Was it abuse,
There
neglect?
was no charges. None.
Well, how could they
That's
take
the
away
problem.
children with no charges? That doesn't make sense.
Exactly my point.
That's
In all the
kidnapping.
paperwork, there's no charges. None. All it says is mother was arrested on an
Right.
warrant.
Why did you give the children to them?
I didn't. They went and they took him out of the youth group. They arrested me.
Oh, they arrested you. The reason why they got involved is because you're arrested falsely. You beat the false charges. They should return the kids back to you.
Yeah, but they never did. And they arrested me. The bench warrant was because apparently they changed the court date. I had a court date coming up because my friend was driving my vehicle, and he was driving us like a couple blocks over to go get. We were going out to eat, and I had a slipper on my toe, so he drove us over. They pulled us over and said his license was expired, and they ended up arresting us. I got arrested because I told them, I didn't try to stop them. I complied with all their everything. They wanted to search my vehicle, and I told them that I didn't consent to a search. I didn't want them tearing up my van that I just got from my grandmother. But I didn't try to stop them. But apparently that was enough to arrest me. And they booked us and released us after a couple hours, and then apparently they had changed the court date that I didn't know. I thought it was coming up the next week. They showed up in my yard saying that I had missed it. I had not been notified that they had changed the date. And they went and they arrested me there in my yard, and then they went and they got my children out of youth group who had plans for the weekend with their friends. They said that I didn't have any book for the kids to go, and I told them, they have plans for the weekend, so I'm going to be out of here. I can bail out tonight, or if I'll, be out by Monday. Then they already have plans for the weekend. They're fine where they're at. If not that, they can go to my best friend Harley, who of like 30 years, who actually had paperwork that I had filed that if anything happened to me, that they would go to her. When my husband died, I didn't want my kids to end up in the system. And they said that no, because she had a code violation on her house the year before. Then my cousin, who lives a couple hours away, 3 hours away, said that she would come and get them right then and there. They said that they had to be there in 2 hours, and it's a 3.5-hour drive, so that she wasn't allowed to get them. They were, I was going to let them go to their grandpa, who lived a couple blocks away, for those couple days. And they said no because they didn't know who he was.
Wow.
And then they just took him.
Well, I thank you so much for calling in. My show time is almost up.
Okay.
It was an hour. I have about 30 seconds left, and I still have Natalie and Faye and KK type in comments and trying to help out, and how bad the foster system is bad. But I'm so glad you called in. But I don't want you to be a stranger. I want you to call in again. I'll be on again.
I will. I got some ideas.
Yeah.
I got some ideas where as parents can do something about this.
Right.
And I'll definitely be calling.
To all my listeners
I
tonight,
think we can make a change.
I'm going to be on at 9:20 tomorrow morning. 9:20 tomorrow morning. That's 40 minutes early than a normal my 10 o'clock time. So that's 9:20 tomorrow. I want to thank
Okay.
you for calling in at Pacific Standard Time. Natalie, it's good to see you back active and helping out. KK, I think it's great that you called in and shared your story. And of course, I have Faye, who's from Kentucky, called in and, well, not called in, but texted in with a lot of help. You all made this room possible tonight. Please fight for your children. Don't give up. God bless you all. And this is Bob Pace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow at 9:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Good night.